The real reason your relationship is breaking, listen. This message is not for entertainment. It is not for comfort. It is not for people who want to feel good for a few seconds and forget everything tomorrow. This message is for the ones who are tired of confusion. Tired of arguments that go in circles, tired of giving more and receiving less, tired of loving someone and still feeling alone. Because deep down, you already know something is wrong. You just don't want to admit it yet. And I need you to understand this clearly. Most relationships don't break suddenly. They break silently, in small decisions, in ignored boundaries, in repeated disrespect, in emotional neglect that was excused too many times. And then one day, it collapses. And people say we don't know what happened, but the truth is everything already happened, slowly, quietly, repeatedly. So let's be honest today. No excuses, no illusions, no emotional filters. Let's talk about the real reason your relationship is breaking. 1. You stop respecting yourself. Listen carefully. The moment you start ignoring your own boundaries, you start losing control of your relationship. Because people treat you how you allow them to treat you. Not how you wish they would. Not how you deserve in theory, but how you accept in reality. And every time you stayed silent when you should have spoken, you taught them what is acceptable. 2. Love without standards becomes suffering. Most people confuse love with tolerance. They think loving someone means accepting everything, but that is not love. That is self-abandonment, because real love does not destroy your peace. Real love does not confuse your mind. Real love does not make you question your worth every day. If it does, it is not love. It is attachment. 3. You ignore the early signs. Every relationship shows truth early. Not later, not suddenly, early. But you called it a small issues. You called it a normal fights. You called it just a phase. And while you were normalizing it, the foundation was breaking. 4. Communication stopped becoming honest at some point. You stopped saying what you really feel. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you were afraid of the reaction. So you started holding things inside, and silence built distance, and distance built misunderstanding, and misunderstanding built emotional walls. And now, you are both living behind those walls. 5. You are fighting for attention, not connection. Listen. When a relationship starts feeling like a competition for attention, it is already in danger. Because love is not supposed to feel like chasing. Love is not supposed to feel like proving your worth daily. Love is supposed to feel safe. If you are always chasing, you are not in love. You are in emotional imbalance. 6. You stayed where your peace was already gone. This is the hardest truth. Most relationships don't end because of one big event. They end because someone stayed too long after peace was already gone. You kept hoping it would change. You kept adjusting yourself. You kept sacrificing your inner stability. But peace, once lost repeatedly, does not return easily. 7. You stopped growing together. Real relationships grow in the same direction. But when growth stops, distance begins. Not physical distance, emotional distance. One person evolves, the other stays the same. And slowly, you stop understanding each other. Not because love ended, but because alignment ended. Listen, now I want you to understand something very important. This is not about blaming one person's. This is about awareness. Because awareness is where healing begins. The real reason your relationship is breaking is not just them. It is not just you. It is the patterns you both ignored, the standards you both lowered, the truth you both avoided. And now you are standing at a point where you must decide, not whether to stay or leave, but whether to keep repeating the same cycle or finally break it. Because love without awareness always turns into pain, and awareness without action changes nothing. So listen to me clearly. If you want to save something, you must first stop destroying yourself inside it. And if it is already breaking beyond repair, then understand this truth. Not everything that breaks was meant to be fixed. Some things break to wake you up. Listen, now we go deeper. Because understanding the problem is not enough. Most people already understand. But they still repeat the same mistakes. Why? Because awareness without change is just comfort in disguise. So let's remove comfort and face truth. 8. You are emotionally dependent, not emotionally connected. There is a difference, a big one. Emotional connection is healthy. It brings peace, it brings clarity, it brings stability. But emotional dependency creates fear, fear of losing them, fear of being alone, fear of speaking the truth. And when fear enters love, love starts to disappear, because now you are not loving freely. You are holding on desperately, and desperation always destroys balance. 9. You started tolerating what you should have addressed. Listen carefully. Every relationship has moments of discomfort, but what defines the outcome is not the problem. It is your response to it. Did you speak up? Not speak up. Or did you stay silent? Did you set boundaries, or did you adjust yourself again? Because every time you tolerated something unacceptable, you lowered your own standard. And once standards drop, respect follows them down. You became available for inconsistency. This is a silent killer of relationships. Inconsistency. One day love, one day distance, one day attention, one day silence. And instead of walking away, you stayed and tried to understand it. But listen, consistency is not optional in love. But listen, consistency is not optional in love. It is the foundation of it. Without consistency, you don't have stability, you have confusion. 11. You started losing yourself to keep them. This is where many relationships collapse internally, long before they end externally. You stopped being yourself. You started adapting. You started changing your personality to avoid conflict. You started shrinking your needs to keep peace. But here is the truth. If you lose yourself to keep someone, you lose both. Because the relationship no longer has truth. It only has survival. Survival. Do as you ignored your intuition deep inside. You already knew. You felt it. The distance, the change, the emotional gap, the imbalance. But you didn't trust your intuition. You trusted hope instead. And hope without action becomes self-deception. 13. You confused attachment with love. Let this sink in. Just because you miss someone does not mean they are right for you. Just because you feel connected does not mean the connection is healthy. Attachment keeps you stuck. Love allows you to grow. And if something is keeping you stuck, it is not love anymore. It is emotional dependency. 14. You stop being honest with yourself. This is the hardest part. Not honesty with them. Honesty with yourself. You knew when it was hurting you. You knew when it was one-sided. You knew when your energy was dropping, but you told yourself it will get better. Oh, they will change. It's just a phase. And while you were convincing yourself, the damage was increasing. 15. You kept choosing potential over reality. Listen, potential is dangerous. Dangerous is dangerous. Because it makes you fall in love with what it could be instead of what is. But relationships are not built on potential. They are built on behavior, consistency, actions, truth. And when reality and potential don't match, pain begins. 16. You stopped protecting your peace at some point. You started prioritizing the relationship over your peace. But listen carefully. A relationship that costs you your peace is too expensive. Because peace is not something you sacrifice for love. Peace is part of real love. That's just part of real love. And if peace is gone, something is wrong. Not small, not temporary, wrong. 17. You are not in love with them anymore. You are attached to memories. This is where confusion peaks. You are not reacting to who they are now. You are reacting to who they were. The past version. The better version. The emotional version. But relationships don't exist in memory. They exist in present behavior. And if the present is painful, the past cannot fix it. Listen, now I want you to understand something important. This is not about blame. It is about clarity. It is about clarity. Because clarity is painful, but it is also freeing. Because once you see the truth clearly, you stop repeating cycles blindly. And that is where transformation begins. Not in staying, not in leaving, but in understanding. Because the real reason your relationship is breaking is not one moment. It is a series of ignored truths. And truth always comes back to demand attention. Listen, Now we reach the point where most people start feeling uncomfortable, because this is where responsibility begins. Not blame, responsibility. Because once you understand the truth, you can no longer act like you don't know it. 18. You stopped communicating truth and started communicating fear. There was a time you used to speak honestly. You used to say what hurt you. You used to express what you needed. You used to confront issues directly, but slowly that changed. Now you speak carefully. You calculate reactions. You choose words not for truth, but for survival. And that is where relationships begin to weaken. Because fear-based communication is not connection. It is emotional protection. And protection creates distance, always. 19. You became reactive instead of reflective. Listen carefully. Reaction destroys clarity. Reflection builds it. When something hurt you, did you pause and understand it, or did you immediately respond emotionally? Because emotional reactions create cycles, arguments, misunderstandings, escalations, but reflection creates awareness, and awareness changes outcomes. Most relationships don't break because of one argument. They break because no one stopped reacting long enough to understand what was really happening. 20. You started fighting the symptoms, not the cause. Let me explain something important. Most couples fight over surface issues. Messages. Time, attention, distance. But those are not the real problems. They are symptoms. The real problems are deeper. Lack of emotional safety, broken trust patterns, unmet needs ignored for too long, loss of respect, emotional exhaustion. But instead of addressing the root, you kept fighting the surface, and nothing changed. Because surface problems always return until root problems are healed. 21. You normalized emotional distance. This is dangerous, very dangerous. At first, distance feels temporary, a phase, a mood, a misunderstanding. But when it stays, and you still stay, it becomes normal. And once emotional distance becomes normal, connection slowly dies. Without noise, without drama, silently. 22. You started over-explaining your worth. Listen. A healthy relationship does not require you to constantly explain why you matter. But when insecurity enters, you start proving yourself, explaining yourself, defending yourself. And the more you explain, the less you are understood. Because people don't value explanations, they value behavior, consistency, presence, respect. And when those are missing, words mean nothing. 23. You tolerated emotional unpredictability. One day, everything is fine. Next day, everything feels different. Next day, silence. Next day, closeness again. And instead of stepping back, you adapted. But here is the truth. Unpredictability destroys emotional safety. And without emotional safety, love cannot survive. Because love needs stability, not emotional guessing games. 24. You stopped choosing yourself in moments you needed to. This is where self-abandonment happens quietly. You ignored your discomfort. You ignored your intuition. You ignored your emotional exhaustion, just to keep things okay. But every time you chose them over yourself, you lost a piece of your inner balance. And when you lose yourself repeatedly, you start feeling empty inside the relationship, even while staying in it. 25. You expected change without changing the pattern. Let's be honest. Many people want change without changing behavior. They want better communication, more love, more respect, more effort, but they keep repeating the same patterns, same reactions, same silence, same tolerance, same fear, and nothing changes. Because life does not respond to wishes, it responds to patterns. 26. You stayed longer than your peace allowed. This is a painful truth. Most relationships don't end too early. They end too late. Too much damage tolerated. Too much silence ignored. Too much emotional weight carried alone. And by the time it breaks, you are already emotionally exhausted. Not because love wasn't there, but because peace left first. 27. You forgot that love is not enough without alignment. Listen carefully. Love is powerful, but it is not everything. Because two people can love each other and still destroy each other. If values don't align, if respect breaks down, if communication fails, if emotional safety disappears, love becomes pain, not connection. 28. You started living in emotional survival mode at some point. You stopped enjoying the relationship and started surviving it. You started overthinking everything, preparing for emotional shifts, managing reactions, protecting your feelings, and survival mode is not love. Is not love. It is stress disguised as connection. 29. You ignored the silence between conversations sometimes. It's not what is said that breaks a relationship. It is what is no longer said. The missing honesty. The missing excitement. The missing emotional openness. Silence is not empty. It is information. And if silence grows, connection fades. 30. You became afraid of losing them more than losing yourself. This is the final stage of emotional imbalance. When fear of losing someone becomes stronger than fear of losing yourself, you are no longer in love. What? You are in emotional dependency. And dependency always leads to imbalance because you start accepting things you would never accept if you valued yourself fully. Listen, now understand this clearly. Relationships don't break in one moment. They break in repeated patterns. Ignored signals, unspoken truths, unhealed emotions, uncorrected behavior. And when all of that accumulates, breakdown becomes inevitable. Not sudden, not accidental, but built over time. And here is the truth you must face. If nothing changes in the pattern, nothing changes in the outcome. Because love alone cannot fix what behavior keeps breaking. The point of no return, listen. Now we are at a deeper layer. This is where denial starts to fade. And truth becomes impossible to ignore. Because at this stage, it is no longer about confusion, it is about consequences. 31. You are no longer dealing with a problem. You are dealing with a pattern. Let me make this clear. Problems can be solved, but patterns repeat. And most relationships don't break because of one issue. They break because the same issue keeps happening. Again, and again, and again, and again. Different day, same pain, different conversation, same outcome. That is not a problem anymore. That is a cycle. 32. Emotional wounds were never healed, only ignored. Listen carefully. Time does not heal emotional wounds. Awareness does. Action does. Change does. But most people don't heal. They suppress. They avoid. They distract themselves. And what is not healed does not disappear. It accumulates until one day it explodes in the relationship, not as one issue, but as many unresolved emotions at once. 33. You started measuring love through effort, not respect. This is where perception gets distorted. You started thinking, if they try, they love me. If they stay, they care. If they come back, it means something. But listen, effort without respect is not love. Presence without care is not connection. Return without change is not growth. Because real love is not proven by coming and going. It is proven by consistency. And 34, you accepted emotional confusion as normal at first. Confusion feels temporary. But when you stay inside confusion too long, it becomes familiar. And familiarity tricks the mind into thinking, this is just how love is. But real love is not confusing. Real love brings clarity. Peace, stability. If confusion is constant, it is not love. It is emotional instability. 35. You stopped asking the right questions instead of asking, is this healthy for me? Do I feel safe here? Is this consistent? You started asking, do they still care? Why are they like this? How can I fix it? And slowly, you shifted from self-awareness to self-neglect. Because the focus moved away from your well-being and onto their behavior. 36. You became addicted to emotional highs and lows. Listen, unstable relationships create addiction. Not love, addiction. Because the brain gets attached to intensity. Strong love, strong fight, strong emotion, strong reconciliation. But intensity is not stability. And addiction is not love. And that cycle keeps you trapped. 37. You ignored emotional exhaustion at some point. You stopped feeling light in the relationship. You started feeling tired, drained, mentally heavy, emotionally unstable, but instead of stepping back, you pushed through it. Text. And emotional exhaustion is dangerous because it slowly removes your clarity until you no longer recognize yourself. 38. You started abandoning your needs silently. You didn't fight. You didn't argue. You didn't demand. You just adjusted again and again. 8. And every adjustment was a quiet form of self-abandonment because you started believing, my needs are too much, and my feelings are too sensitive. I should just understand them. But relationships cannot survive on one-sided emotional sacrifice. 39. You stopped trusting your own emotional signals. Your intuition was speaking. Your emotions were reacting. Your body was warning you. But you ignored all of it because you wanted things to work. And when you stop trusting yourself, you start trusting confusion instead. That is where people lose their direction in relationships. Not from them, from self-disconnection. 40. You stayed in situations that required you to shrink. Listen carefully. Any relationship where you have to shrink yourself is already misaligned. Shrink your voice, shrink your emotions, shrink your expectations, shrink your truth. That is not love, that is suppression. And no relationship can thrive where one person disappears slowly inside it. 41. You started confusing attachment anxiety with love. Let this be clear. Missing someone is not proof of love. Feeling anxious is not proof of connection. Fear of loss is not proof of value. These are emotional attachments, not emotional alignment. And attachment always creates suffering when reality does not match expectation. 42. You kept waiting for them to become who they used to be. This is one of the deepest emotional traps. You are not even reacting to who they are today. You are reacting to who they were in the beginning. The version that felt safer, warmer, more present, more attentive, but people don't stay in their beginning version forever. And expecting that version to return creates disappointment every time. 43. You ignored the emotional imbalance growing between you at first. It was small, slight imbalance, slight effort gap, slight emotional distance. But imbalance does not stay small. It grows. And when one person gives more consistently, the relationship slowly shifts out of balance until one person feels like they are carrying everything. 44. You stopped being honest about what you truly need. This is where relationships silently break. You started minimizing your needs. It's okay, I understand. It doesn't matter, but it did matter. You just stopped expressing it. And unexpressed needs don't disappear. They turn into emotional distance. 45. You are now facing the outcome of everything you ignored. Listen, this is the truth many avoid. What you are experiencing right now is not sudden. It is not random. It is not unexpected. It is accumulation of everything that was ignored, tolerated, avoided, delayed, and now it is showing up as reality, not punishment, but consequence. And here is the most important truth in this part. You cannot fix a relationship at the level it is breaking, if the causes are deeper than the surface. Because until patterns change, outcomes will not change. And that is where we go next, the final stage of truth. Hold it. Where you either evolve or repeat the cycle again. You are emotionally stuck in a loop of hope and disappointment. Let's be honest. Your cycle looks like this. Hope, effort, confusion, disappointment, silence, repeat. And every cycle takes something from you. Your peace, your clarity, your energy. And slowly, you stop recognizing yourself. 65. You are not losing them. You are losing yourself. This is the hardest truth. You think you are trying to save the relationship, but in reality, you are slowly abandoning yourself inside it. Your standards drop, your voice weakens, your boundaries disappear. Your emotional strength fades, and what remains is someone who is still there physically, but gone internally. 66. You cannot fix emotional imbalance with emotional sacrifice. Listen carefully. Giving more does not fix imbalance, it deepens it. Because imbalance grows when one person over gives one person under, gives one person adjusts, one person remains unchanged, and sacrifice without balance becomes self-neglect. 67. You are holding on to the idea of them, not the reality at this stage. You are no longer reacting to who they are. You are reacting to what you imagined. The version you hoped for, the version you believed in, the version you waited for. But reality is what exists now. Not what existed before, not what you want it to be. And ignoring reality always leads to emotional suffering. 68. Your peace has already left the relationship. This is something most people don't notice. They think the relationship is still alive because they are still in it. But if peace is gone, the foundation is already broken. And without foundation, everything else becomes unstable. 69. You stayed too long trying to fix what needed acceptance. There is a difference between fixing and accepting. Fixing requires change. Acceptance requires truth. And some things cannot be fixed without mutual effort. So staying alone does not heal it. It only delays your healing. 70. You are now standing at emotional crossroads. Listen, this is your moment. Not to react, not to panic, not to decide emotionally, but to become aware. Fully aware, because now you can clearly see what is happening, what has been happening, what will continue happening if nothing changes. And awareness is powerful, because it removes illusion. Final shift, let this settle inside you. You are not trapped. You are not confused. You are not helpless. You are aware, and awareness always comes before change. But awareness alone is not enough. It must be followed by decision. Because the cycle will not break itself. You must break it. And the moment you choose truth over attachment, peace begins to return. Not instantly, but permanently, because now you are no longer reacting from emotion. You are responding from clarity, and that is where transformation begins, not in staying, not in leaving, but in finally seeing. The truth you can't unsee. Listen, at this stage, something inside you is already shifting, not because someone told you, but because you finally started seeing it clearly. And once you see clearly, you can never fully go back to confusion. 71. You are no longer reacting. You are realizing this is the turning point. Before you reacted emotionally, anger, sadness, overthinking, anxiety, but now something different is happening. You are observing, you are noticing patterns, you are connecting the dots. And realization is more powerful than reaction, because reaction is temporary, but realization stays. 72. The truth was never hidden. You were avoiding it. Let this sink in. Nothing was truly unclear. The signs were there. The behavior was there, the distance was there, the inconsistency was there, but facing it would require acceptance, and acceptance requires change. So instead of accepting, you delayed, you hoped, you justified. But truth does not disappear just because it is ignored. It waits. 73. You were not confused about them. You were conflicted inside yourself. This is deeper. Part of you saw reality. Part of you wanted to believe something better. One part said, this is not right. Another part said, but I don't want to lose them. And that internal conflict created emotional chaos, not because of them, because of divided clarity inside you. 74. You started normalizing emotional pain. Listen carefully. This is where damage becomes silent. What used to hurt started feeling normal. 1. What used to feel wrong started feeling unmanageable. What used to shock you started feeling expected. And when pain becomes normal, you stop reacting to it. And that is dangerous. 75. You stayed because leaving felt harder than suffering. This is one of the most honest truths. So, you were not staying because it was good. You were staying because leaving felt unknown. And the mind prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar freedom. But staying in pain does not make it safer. It just makes it longer. 76. You kept hoping effort would replace alignment. Listen, effort is powerful, but it cannot fix misalignment. You can try harder, you can give more, you can stay longer. But if two people are not aligned emotionally, effort becomes exhaustion. not solution. 77. You ignored emotional imbalance because you were emotionally invested at some point. Your investment became emotional attachment. And attachment makes people overlook. Disrespect, inconsistency, emotional neglect, imbalance, because the fear of losing becomes stronger than the need for truth. 78. You were trying to save something that was already changing. This is painful, but important. People change. Feelings change. Energy changes. Connections change. But you were holding on to the version that no longer exists. And that creates suffering, because you are fighting reality instead of accepting it. 79. You confused emotional intensity with emotional connection. Let's be clear. Strong emotions are not always strong relationships. Drama feels intense. Distance feels intense. Arguments feel intense. Reconciliation feels intense, but intensity is not stability. And stability is what sustains relationships. 80. You were emotionally carrying what was meant to be shared. This is where exhaustion builds. One person starts initiating, explaining, adjusting, fixing, overthinking, while the other remains unchanged. And over time, that imbalance becomes emotional weight. 81. You stopped trusting your inner voice at the beginning. You felt something was wrong, but you ignored it. You overruled it. You rationalized it. And when you stop trusting yourself, you start relying on confusion. And confusion never leads to clarity. Only awareness does. 82. You stayed longer than your truth allowed. Listen, there is a limit your inner self sets. When something is not right, you feel it, you sense it, you know it. But if you ignore that long enough, you disconnect from your own truth. And that is where emotional suffering begins. 83. You cannot heal in the same pattern that broke you. This is critical. If the pattern is inconsistency, silence, emotional neglect, imbalance, and nothing changes, then nothing heals. Because healing requires change in behavior, not just emotion. 84. You are no longer in the relationship you thought you were in. This is the awakening point. You are not in the beginning anymore. You are not in the hope anymore. You are not in the potential anymore. You are in reality. And reality demands clarity, not imagination. 85. The truth is now fully visible and unavoidable at this stage. You cannot unsee it. You see the pattern, you see the imbalance, you see the emotional gap. You see the cycle. And once truth becomes visible, ignorance is no longer an excuse. Final realization, listen, this is where everything becomes real. The relationship is not breaking because of one mistake. It is breaking because truth was ignored for too long. And now truth is no longer silent. It is visible. It is loud. It is clear. And here is the final message of this part. You are not stuck in the relationship. You are stuck in the version of yourself that tolerates too much. In the moment that version changes, everything else changes. Not instantly, but completely. The moment of clarity, listen. Now something important is happening inside you. Not outside, inside. Because when truth sits in front of you long enough, denial starts to lose strength and clarity starts to rise. 86. You are no longer asking a why is this happening? You are asking a why did I accept this? This is the shift. Before your focus was on them. Why are they like this? Why are they changing? Why are they distant? But now the question has changed. And when your question changes, your awareness changes. Your awareness changes. 87. You are beginning to see your own patterns. Listen carefully. This is not blame. This is awareness. You are starting to notice where you stayed silent, where you ignored your limits, where you adjusted too much, where you accepted less than you deserved. And this awareness is uncomfortable, but it is necessary because you cannot change what you refuse to see. 88. You realize the relationship was never one-sided, but responsibility became one-sided at the beginning. Both people contributed. Both people reacted. Both people made choices. But over time, something shifted. One person started carrying more emotional weight. One person started adjusting more. One person started overthinking more. An imbalance was born, not suddenly, slowly. 89. You stopped asking for what you needed. This is where emotional silence becomes dangerous. You didn't stop needing things, you stopped expressing them. Because you feared conflict, rejection, misunderstanding, emotional distance, but unspoken needs do not disappear. They turn into emotional emptiness. 90. You started accepting less to avoid losing more. Listen. This is one of the deepest emotional traps. You started lowering expectations just to keep things from falling apart. But here is the truth. What you avoid losing externally, you start losing internally. Self-respect, clarity, peace, identity. 91. You ignored the emotional cost of staying at first. Staying felt safe, familiar, hopeful. But over time, staying became heavy. Not because love increased, but because emotional cost increased. And cost without balance becomes suffering. 92. You stopped recognizing your own emotional needs. This is subtle but powerful. You became so focused on the relationship that you forgot yourself inside it. Your needs became secondary. Your emotions became secondary. Your peace became secondary. And when self becomes secondary for too long, identity starts to fade. 93. You were trying to maintain connection without maintaining yourself. Listen carefully. This is impossible. You cannot sustain a healthy relationship while neglecting your own emotional foundation, because when you collapse internally, everything externally becomes unstable. 94. You realize now, silence was not peace, it was avoidance at one point. Silence felt like peace. No arguments, no conflict, no tension. But now you see it differently. That silence was not peace. It was unresolved emotion. It was avoided truth. It was delayed conversations. And avoided truth always returns. 95. You begin to understand. Love without emotional responsibility cannot survive. Love alone is not enough. Without responsibility, communication breaks, trust weakens, connection fades, misunderstanding grows, and eventually, love becomes pressure instead of peace. 96. You are no longer blind. You are aware. This is the turning point. You see patterns, behavior, emotional imbalance, your own participation. And awareness is powerful because it ends illusion, but it also demands action. 97. You now understand the real reason the relationship is breaking. Not one thing, not one mistake, not one moment. It is accumulation, ignored truth, emotional imbalance, self-abandonment, lack of communication, repeated patterns, delayed decisions. And accumulation always leads to breaking point. 98. You cannot go back to ignorance anymore. Listen, once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. You can ignore, you can delay, you can deny, but you cannot return to confusion, because awareness changes perception permanently. 99. Now the responsibility shifts to you. This is the truth most avoid. You are no longer only observing. You are responsible for what happens next. 2. Do you continue the same cycle, or do you break it? Do you repeat patterns, or do you interrupt them? Because now you see everything. Final shift. Listen, this is not the end of your relationship story. This is the beginning of your awareness. Because when a person becomes aware, they either repeat pain or rise above it. And that decision is yours now. Not tomorrow, not later, now. The breaking point you can't ignore. Listen, now we reach the part most people try to avoid. Not because it is unclear, but because it is too clear. Because clarity removes excuses, and excuses are what kept everything going. 100. This is where emotional reality becomes unavoidable at this stage. You are no longer guessing. You are no longer hoping. You are no longer confusing potential with reality. You are seeing it for what it is. And that is uncomfortable, because truth does not adjust to feelings. Feelings must adjust to truth. 101. You realize the relationship is not collapsing suddenly. It has been weakening for a long time. Let this sink in. Nothing breaks overnight. It weakens in ignored conversations and unresolved emotions, in silent distance, in repeated misunderstandings, in unmet needs. And one day, it simply becomes visible. But the damage was already there. 102. You see the pattern clearly now, repetition without repair. This is the core issue. Same arguments, same silence, same emotional gap, same confusion, same cycle, and nothing truly changes. Only the timing of pain changes. Only the timing of pain changes. That is not growth, that is repetition. 103. You understand now. Love without effort from both sides cannot survive. One person cannot carry emotional balance alone. Because relationships are not built on intention alone. They are built on effort, communication, accountability, consistency. And when those are one-sided, connection starts to collapse. 104. No more. Maybe it will change, or maybe they will understand, or maybe things will go back, because reality has already spoken. And reality does not repeat itself for comfort. It stays consistent. 116. You now understand the real reason the relationship is breaking. Let it settle fully. It was not just one thing. It was everything ignored over time. Silence instead of communication, distance instead of connection, imbalance instead of mutual effort, assumptions instead of understanding, hope instead of clarity. And slowly, what was not fixed became what could not survive. Whoa. 117. You were not just in love, you were emotionally invested in potential. This is the hardest truth. You were not only seeing who they were, you were also seeing who they could become. But relationships do not live in potential. They live in present behavior. And when present reality and future hope don't match, pain begins. 118. You realize now, love without alignment becomes suffering. Listen carefully. Love alone is not enough. Without respect, consistency, emotional safety, communication, love turns into confusion. And confusion turns into pain. 119. You can't heal a relationship by ignoring what broke it. This is where most people fail. They try to restart without fixing, forgive without addressing, continue without understanding. But ignoring the cause does not remove the effect. It repeats it. 120. You are no longer blind. You are aware, and awareness demands action. Now you have two choices. 1. Stay in what you already understand is breaking. 2. Step into discomfort and change your pattern. There is no third option. Because staying in awareness without action still creates the same result. 121. This is not just about them. It is about your pattern. Listen. If you do not change your pattern, you will repeat this story with someone else. Different face, same cycle. Because the issue is not always the person, sometimes it is what you tolerate. 122. You now understand the lesson. Not every connection is meant to continue. Some connections are. Lessons, awakenings, reflections, redirections, not lifelong commitments. And forcing continuation turns lessons into suffering. 123. Letting go is not loss, it is correction. This is what most people don't understand. Letting go clears emotional confusion, restores self-respect, stops repeated pain, opens space for alignment. Loss is when you lose yourself. Letting go is when you find yourself again. 124. You don't lose love, you lose imbalance. Listen closely. You are not losing love, you are losing confusion, inconsistency, emotional instability, one-sided effort. And that is not love, that is weight. 125. The real ending is not the relationship. It is the version of you that tolerated too much. This is the deepest truth. The relationship is one layer, but underneath it is you. The version of you that stayed silent, accepted less, ignored intuition, overgave love. That version must end here, because your future depends on it. 126. You are not broken. You are becoming aware. Let this settle in your heart. You are not damaged. You are not weak. You are not lost. You are not lost. You are aware, and awareness is the beginning of strength. 127. What happens next is your responsibility now. Life does not ask, what happened to you? It asks, what will you do with what you know now? Because knowledge without action becomes repetition. 128. Your healing starts with one decision, not them, not the past, not circumstances. You. One decision, to stop repeating cycles, to stop ignoring truth, to stop abandoning yourself. That decision changes everything. 129. You don't need closure from them. You need closure within you. Closure is not a conversation. It is acceptance. Acceptance that things change, patterns where real effort was uneven, truth was delayed, and now you are done repeating it. 130. The final truth. You were never meant to stay stuck in emotional confusion. Listen carefully. You were built for clarity, for peace, for emotional balance. For emotional balance. For self-respect, not confusion, not cycles, not emotional survival. 131. The ending is not pain. The ending is awakening. Yes, it hurts, but it also reveals, and what it reveals is more important than what it ends. Because it shows you your limits, your patterns, your strength, your awareness. 132. You are now at a new beginning, not in the relationship, but in yourself. Because once you see clearly, you cannot return to blindness, and that is the real transformation. Final message, listen, this is the truth that stays. You did not lose love. You lost imbalance. You lost confusion. You lost what was never aligned with your peace. And now you have something more powerful than attachment. Clarity. And clarity will always guide you better than emotion. So from here, you don't go back, you go forward. Stronger, wiser, more aware, more grounded. And this time, you choose yourself first, every time.